expanding our relationship with Splash, and we're going to help together to provide clean water to over 1 million children in the coming years. I'm really excited about that. What we're doing together is changing the world, and data is at the heart of that transformation. It drives how we work, how we relax, what we produce, what we buy, what we discuss, and how we decide in the office, on the road, at home. Data is vital everywhere. And with all that data, the ability to analyze it is imperative. And it will be ubiquitous. Analytics is going to become ubiquitous. We can see it happening all around us. But the reality is that simply having all that data available, having analytics available, is not enough. In order to realize the benefits and capture the opportunity, we need everyone to value analytics, to seek out data and then use it to drive action. What we really need is a data culture. Now that phrase might be fairly new, but the ideas aren't. I recently came across a story with incredible parallels to what we're talking about today. It's a story about individual heroes who came together as a community. It's a story of empowerment and a story of impact that changed the world around us. Let's go back almost 80 years to 1941. War is consuming the world. The United States refuses to engage until December 7th, 7:53 a.m. A surprise attack on the U.S. naval base in Pearl Harbor decimates the base. One day later, the U.S. is at war. Pearl Harbor makes it clear that the U.S. government faces a terrible deficit in military intelligence. They are going to war virtually blind. Just imagine, overnight, you're at war on two fronts. You've just suffered a devastating blow, and you have no idea when or where the next attack might occur. Where is it planned? Yet every detail they could possibly want to know about the enemy's plans is floating around in radio messages, there for the taking. But the messages are encrypted, and the military had almost no one who could decode them. So what did they do? It all starts with secret letters. One went to a history major, another to a mathematics major, English, Italian, and so on. 21 letters to seniors at just one college in Massachusetts. In fact, the Navy sent letter after letter to college students across the eastern seaboard. The letters invited them to a clandestine meeting. Meanwhile, at the same time, the Army recruiters fanned out and began scouring colleges across the South and the Midwest. Every person they interviewed was asked two screening questions. First, do you like crossword puzzles? Second, are you engaged to be married? If they answered correctly, yes to puzzles, no to marriage, they were invited to train as code breakers for the Army and Navy Signals Intelligence Units. The task ahead of them was daunting. They faced a deluge of encrypted enemy messages, literally thousands and thousands of messages flooding in each day, and not close to enough people to make sense of it. The U.S. is hemorrhaging workers. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of men each month shipping out. Literally half of the workforce, 50% of U.S. men aged 20 to 49, left jobs to serve. So taking the traditional approach to finding recruits for this kind of work was futile. The government had to completely rethink who could be a code breaker, or they were sunk. So the intelligence units took a dramatic new approach. They started to recruit Those schools in the South and the Midwest were women's teaching colleges. That college in Massachusetts, Wellesley College. That's right. My wife would be happy. The letters went out to seniors in the Wellesley class of 1942. Women like B. Norton, Elizabeth Colby, and Gloria Bassett, along with many, many others, they accepted the challenge. And when they arrived in Washington, D.C., they became America's secret weapon in the war. They became Code Girls. Until author and journalist Liza Mundy wrote this book, the story of these women was conspicuously untold, buried really. Some of these women came from low-wage teaching jobs in 200-person towns. They showed up in Washington, D.C. with a bag, the promise of a job, and basically nothing else. They were brave, and they were some of the best and the brightest we had, and they ended up playing a crucial role in the outcome of the war. But remember, this was the 1940s, and at times, they were still asked to wash windows and get coffee. They were underestimated, they were harassed, but yet they rose above it all to save this country. Liza Mundy uncovered and shared this moving history. Now there's a second story inside this book about a time when the fight for this country, for the free world, went from having the best military strategy to having the best military intelligence. And even though the details of the story are rooted in the past, so many of their challenges are familiar to us today. Because this is a story about data. About people seeing and understanding data. About building a data culture. And about how that changed the course of history. The decision to recruit women meant that intelligence units were able to double the potential talent pool. Men were on the team too, but now the military had a shot at making use of those piles and piles of captured enemy messages. Each month, more code breakers flooded in. The Navy headquarters became so overcrowded that some sat on upturned wastebaskets. And they didn't just find any women to do this work. They found incredible women. Women who became data rock stars. This is Ann Cara Christie. She was a 23-year-old college grad with an English degree. She was an absolute natural. Ann not only rose to lead a critical code-breaking team, she went on to be named the 6th Deputy Director of the National Security Agency and received a Presidential Award. Just imagine missing out on that kind of talent. Because of bad assumptions about who could break code, who could analyze data. Sometimes I get pushed back when I talk about analytics becoming ubiquitous. You don't really mean everyone will work with data, right? You don't really mean the hundreds and hundreds of millions of knowledge workers in the world, right? We absolutely do. There are Ann Cara Christies hiding in all of your organizations, and the sheer volume of data, the volume of need, so large. The data must be for everyone. It's such a crucial piece of a data culture. Okay, back to our code breakers. They've got the people they need to do the work, but now they've got a new problem to solve. How on earth do you start to figure out how to make sense of this? This was entirely new stuff to the code breakers. They weren't trained for this. And like any time you ask a group of people to start doing something completely new, the military had to teach them. They had to teach the new recruits to speak the language of code. They had to help them become proficient. The women went to formal training, and they also had to learn on the job. The volume, the barrage of incoming messages forced this. Of course, not everyone is going to be an Ann Cara Christie Zen master, right? But they didn't need everyone at that level. What they needed was many people working at all levels of sophistication. They needed hardcore code breakers ferreting out algorithms and keys. They needed smart analysts figuring out and identifying which codes applied to which messages. And they needed an army and a navy of workers who could dive in and decode each individual message. What they really did was set up the code breaker equivalent of data scientists, power analysts, and business users, everyone working with data, but at different levels of complexity. By taking this multi-level approach, the US government was able to scale from a couple of hundred code breakers in 1941 to 20,000 trained, effective military professionals less than 4 years later, and the majority of them were women. How many people today, smart, capable people, look at data and feel like it's as incomprehensible as those military ciphers we just showed? If we're going to get an entire workforce to value data, to use it for daily decision-making, then we must invest in data literacy for people at all levels. Now, the next issue that the military intelligence units faced was that they were caught between two competing and powerful needs: access to data and security. Balancing between those needs required agility. Many people needed access to all sorts of intel. Tens of thousands of people working on different questions, and you couldn't preordain what information someone might need to crack a code. And they were dealing with the World War II equivalent of what we call the data deluge. Thousands of messages each day, and all of this information had to be accessible. Here's a great example of why. This is the purple machine. You go back, please. This is the purple machine, one of the most critical enemy code systems of the entire war. Purple contained the most sensitive messages in the Pacific, and with 4 movable rotors and 25 changeable switches, it could be set to any of 70 billion permutations. It was nearly indecipherable. But purple was broken because this codebreaker, Genevieve Grosjean, was able to access a set of old messages sent in another system. Those old messages held the clue, the pattern, that cracked purple wide open, and that access was critical. But they couldn't give everybody access to everything. We're talking about state secrets. Any kind of breach would be treason, and it could cost lives, maybe even the war itself. So the information had to be secure. The government performed stringent background checks, and they managed access to information based on the work groups that the code breakers were assigned to. But within work groups, the access was broad. By knowing when they should say no, they were able to say yes. Now, this issue is still alive and well today. You need empowered knowledge workers and safe data, and an environment that gives the agility to find that balance. Okay, so the intelligence units have the people, they've trained them, they're figuring out access and security, but how do they bring it all together to form a data culture? Well, cultures are made of people, and the people doing this work at the beginning were almost totally silent. Navy accused Army of poaching their code-breaking recruits. Army accused Navy of stealing credit for their work. And the British intelligence units looked at our early efforts and described it as a bunch of kids playing at office. Code breakers had to change that. They had to share resources, strategies, brain power, and they did. Regardless of hierarchy or team, everyone would push up their sleeves and jump on whatever task was urgent. They would share messages across service lines, and they achieved critical wins as a result. Sure, there was internal competition. They were human and proud of the work that they were doing, but first and foremost, they were a team. They were a community focused on a mission. Belonging to that community, those code breakers fundamentally changed how these women saw themselves. Louise Pearsall, who worked on the German Enigma code, said, "This is where I should have been all my life." Or this story about another code breaker. Love this story. Jean Pugh was a Navy code breaker. Decades after the war, she was watching a 60 Minutes episode about the Battle of the Coral Sea. After the show described the code-breaking efforts that actually led to the win, Jean turned to her family and said, "Well, I guess I can tell you what I did during the war now." Her husband began explaining that she had been a secretary. When Jean interrupted him, "No, Harold, my girls and I broke that code." And then she hopped up and high-fived everyone in the room. Amazing. This was the most fulfilling professional experience of many of these women's lives, and they formed enduring friendships. The results speak for themselves. The code breakers delivered exactly what the US government needed most: trusted insight at speed and at scale. How many of you have heard the Battle of Midway? A few. I'm surprised not more, because actually a Hollywood blockbuster about this opened literally just last week, seriously. So as you all know, it's a story of how Nick Jonas from the Jonas Brothers saved America. Actual movie picture. Thanks, Nick. In truth, Midway is still one of the most famous code-breaking wins in history. It was supposed to be an ambush against the US, and it became instead a crushing blow to the enemy, all enabled by US code breakers. Because of their work, the Navy knew more about the enemy's planned attack than most enemy commanders and officers did. It was a turning point for the war in the Pacific. It was just one example of the impact that these code breakers had. Everywhere we were fighting, the code breakers were pivotal. The impact these women had was unfathomable, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. And I also want to thank Liza Mundy for finding and telling the story. In fact, we are honored to have Liza with us here today. Liza. Well deserved. So in an analog world, without computers, or databases, or any of the technology that we have today, these code breakers created a data culture around working with data. Now, if they could be successful in creating a data culture all the way back in the 1940s, why do so many of us struggle with it today? And we do struggle. Only 24% of companies can even readily access all their data. 8% of companies are actually achieving analytics at scale. 8%. Many of you tell us that your organizations are working with data, trying, but it's not really part of the DNA of your companies yet. Yet we know you're hungry to use data to improve how you think, how you operate, how you make decisions. Building a data culture is not easy. It requires enormous change throughout the organization. So if we're going to fulfill our mission, we have got to help with this. To build a data culture, We know that you need to build communities to help people feel united and supported. You need to develop the agility to enable responsible access to govern and secure data. And you need to improve data literacy and analytics proficiency so you can really equip an entire workforce to use data effectively. These were the critical elements that enabled the code breakers in the 1940s to create a data culture, and it's no different today. It's only when you get all of these things right that you can unleash the potential of all your people and all your data. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on the Anne Cara Christies of the world. Can you imagine? Well, we've been working to crack the code on how to do exactly this. We've taken what we've learned from over 15 years as pioneers in the BI industry, from years and years of deep, frank conversations with customers, and the successes you've built, the struggles you're facing, and what still lies ahead. We've gone beyond creating a high-level sketch, because we know that what you need is specific understanding of how to achieve a data culture. So we created Tableau Blueprint. Blueprint is the culmination of everything we've learned about what works and what doesn't, creating a successful data culture. Blueprint provides a vision of what a data culture looks like. It's also a guide on how to achieve that vision. And it's also a tangible set of best practices and a detailed set of actions to help you get there and help you assess your progress along the way. We started working with customers on Blueprint already, and they're incredibly excited about how it's helping their organizations to build a data culture. And here at TC, there are tons and tons of opportunity to learn more about Blueprint and a lot more resources online. We're privileged to work with customers who are leading the way in scaling analytics and creating that data culture. And we're lucky to have one of them joining us on stage today. So please welcome Danielle Berenger, Nissan North America's Chief Data Officer.